30 and superimpose it on 19. That's biogeneric reference. That also works very well in the anterior. So if you're doing 7 and you want to copy what was on 10, just copy 10 and superimpose it on 7, or 9 on 8. That's down the road, okay? Today we just want to do a simple crown. So we're going to take biogeneric individual. Notice I'm on my phase bar, administration. It says define a restoration. I'm going to select my milling unit. By the way, this right now is reading the milling unit in Reading. Their milling unit is turned on. This reads it. All right? Mar Island is going to do the same thing. Eventually, not that I'm stressing you, Dr. Duckett, I can't imagine him, I could stress anybody, but in the future, that milling unit will be right here. And just throw it in and do it. Right now, though, you're in a trial run. Let's see how this stuff works. I understand that. Let's do it. Okay, select material. Look at all the selections I have here. It's going to default to Sirona. Why do you think it does that? It's their product. This is a feldspathic block. The CEREC block is a feldspathic ceramic. We've been using feldspathics for, what, 60 years, 70 years? Porcelain fused to metal crowns were very successful. So are these. Now, but if I wanted to use, look at, I happen to like some of the Vita blocks. You'll hear me talk about the Anamic. That's a hybrid block, a monolithic hybrid. You're going to use Emax CAD. That's a lithium disilicate. When fired and bonded in, has a flexural strength of 360 degrees, 360 megapascals degrees, 360 megapascals. Zirconia has about 1,000, metal has about 1,200. Stuff's really strong. If I want to have a little bit of translucency, I like that block. That's a lucite reinforced block. I'll go over it tomorrow, very small part of it. Don't even worry about this, you have all these on your sheets. So you have to write notes. If you want to write notes, great. All the materials are on your sheets. Not only all the materials, how to handle them. What to do, bond them in. All right, now look at this. You could also mill a temporary if you wanted to. This will mill you a temporary bridge. Whatever you want to do. Then there's all kinds of materials here, there are. But it's going to default to a feldspathic. I press OK. This is all on your sheet, by the way. It comes back and says, okay, Doc, is that what you want to do? You want to do a crown number 30? You want to use the biogeneric anatomy? Yes. Now at this time, if I want to do a second case, if I wanted to do a crown on, say, 29, I could. If I want to do an onlay on 14, I could. And I will show you that tomorrow. But I'm going to move forward. I left click on the arrows and it says, okay, Doc, you told me you want to do a crown on 30. So what does it do? It defaults to the lower jaw. So what do I do right now? I take my camera, I hold it like a handpiece. This camera, don't drop it, it's $7 grand. This is a live stream video camera. The ideal place to put it is 1 millimeter above the surface. So I hold it like a handpiece. There's 3 sounds that came on this. The first one sounded like a Geiger counter. And we immediately protested because we didn't think that your patients who suffer from PTSD would really like that. So they changed it to some bells. Now watch what I'm doing. I'm just running the camera over it. Not too fast, not too slow, and all that blue I'm capturing as information. Now doctors, it's very important that you image on the mandible up to the central incisors. When I'm off like this, that means it's not accepting any images. Now I'm back. Always start on the occlusal and finish on the occlusal. And now I'm tipping the camera to make sure I get the interproximal. I'm tipping the camera again to try to get the interproximal, and now I'm going in this way. I I want that interproximal information. And I'm getting it. I start on the occlusal surface and I finish. Now to turn the camera off, there's a foot pedal here. I just gently tap it up. Yes, ma'am?
Does the machine let you know when you've gotten all the appropriate information?
No.
Oh.
No, it doesn't. But what you want to get, let's look at it. That's a great question, doctor. If I turn this way and I see that's not information, the incisal is. That's not great information there. I'm not overly concerned with it. Will I go back and get it? See, that's the hardest thing to get. See that blue right there? That's the interproximal contact. So I will go back and I will try to get it. I'll place it over the area I want to go. Again, I'm not touching the surface, I'm a millimeter away. I tap the pedal and it starts engaging.
And your foot's still on the pedal?
No, it's off. I just tap it.
Oh. So let's say blood flows over one of the margins. You can go back and recapture that area after you drive it off.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Doctor asked a great question. I think I got all the information. I use my center clip right here, and I run the trackball away from me, and it's large. Doctor says, what happens if there's blood over this? Well, you gotta dry it off, get hemostasis, but I can't use that blood, right? So doctor, let's answer your question. I go over here to tools, and I use a cut tool. This is a virtual die saw. Double click to engage it, left click to tack it, double click, hit apply, and it's gone. So now I can go back to that prep area, make sure it's got nice hemostasis. And what do, doctor? Well, I just go back now, and I take my camera. The foot pedal is right here. I'm gonna apply it to a surface I know I've already been to. Tap the button up to engage. Fill it in.
Can you do that with just a part of the margin, or do you have to do the whole tooth?
How much do you want to cut up?
Okay, so if you got it all good except one area, you can cut out that one area.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
If I say yes sir, yes ma'am, that's just a respect and South thing. I lived in the South for 9 years now. I'm a Boston guy, but I couldn't take that cold anymore. So I live in North Carolina, everything's yes, yes sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. I'm just a creature of habit. I call back to Massachusetts now and they think I'm some kind of jerk. Don't call me ma'am, and I'm like, I'm sorry, we do. So don't, that's why I said that. Okay, so I got my model here, I'm looking really good. But look at, because since I redid it, I don't have a lot of information there. So I'm gonna retake it and get that information, because that information is vital for a contact. Now, I'm in a patient's mouth, so it'd be great if patients didn't have tongues, the teeth didn't have any nerves, and we could unhinge them. It'd be beautiful, but we can't. So I get that the best I can. Now, I'm going to take the upper arch. Now the upper arch is good, that's the upper arch, the patient's sitting here. I only have to take up to the canine. And I'm not going to worry too much about on one of the patient's mouth. Assistants are very important here. Assistants should be there with a tongue depressor to move away the tissue. By the way, with this camera on, you can't have a patient light on the patient. Doctors cannot have lights on their forehead. It adversely affects the ability to capture this image. Any metal you have in there, like a mirror, will reflect the light. Now here's what's very germane to patients in the VA. Lots of these patients have posterior gold crowns. Don't try to capture the gold crown first. Try to capture some adjacent teeth of natural teeth first, and then it'll take the gold crown. If you try to put this camera around the gold crown, it's reflecting the light. It doesn't seem to want to capture it very well. Okay. Now I'm going to take a bite. Patient bites together. Oh, you're talking about the powder spray? Yeah, if you the old camera, and with this, if you spray it with the imaging medium, then it works. That's true. Very true. Okay, I'm going to take a buccal bite. Patients biting together. I do not have to capture the prep for a buccal bite. In fact, I need very little information. I place it on the premolars. Why? It's the easiest place to capture it. And I've captured the premolars. So I hit the button, and I just start going up, down, up, down. I get gingival tissue. That's the most I need. I do not need any more than that. Notice I basically have a camera's length. I've got my images. Now I just left click on next. And what is it doing? It's reading all the models. This is a live stream video. Now doctors, somebody might say, boy, that's a lot of memory you're going to use up. Well, when you save this case, it saves the models. It never saves the images. Doesn't save the video image, so it's gone. It'll save the models though. Okay? So what's it doing? If you look in the lower left here, it's reading it. Every one of you is going to do this by noontime. We have, what, 12 people? That's 2 hours. So that's easy to do. That's six an hour. You're all watching, and we'll be right where we want to be. Any questions about the camera? Hold it like a handpiece. By the way, this camera right here, see there's a little button here. If you put your fingernail in this, you disengage it. This is what you wipe down. This cannot be autoclaved. It has to be wiped with like an alcohol wipe or a Cavicide wipe. That's the lens. If you scratch it, you buy a new piece. What we'd like you to do is never wipe it down when it's engaged on this camera because it will short circuit it. Now, your rules are your rules. You can't put any kind of sleeve over this, but if you want to put something over this, you can. Normally the way that we do this, doctors, is the doctor handles the camera and somebody else is pushing the buttons. An assistant or whatever. Go next, next, next. We don't go from the mouth to this. Yes, sir?
When you're acquiring the images, are you, what do you sit looking in the mouth right there and then you have someone telling you need a better area, or you look back and forth, or you look at that?
Okay, that's a great question, doctor. What I would do is, and every doctor is different, place the camera strategically where you can go back, forth, back, forth. That first day in dental school when they tell you to take the handpiece and start learning indirect vision, it's very appropriate for this. So, some doctors will have the patient here and have the camera there. So the patient's here and they're looking at the images. Some of the patient will be here and the doctor has the camera here and they're going back and looking. It's just a question of personal taste, or do I have adequate room in now? Remember I said start in the occlusal surface and finish in the occlusal surface? There's a reason for that, because now it's straight across. And all I have to do is drag my bite up or down, whichever I want to do. But you have to do it you have to put your cursor on whatever half you want to take it to. So I can't grab the bottom and bring it up top, because if I do, it's going to flip. That's a holdover from the old blue can. So I'll take the top half, bring it up, put it up close, take the top half, bring it up close. Where am I? Is that where I am?
Second.
I think
First
it's
molar.
It's flipped. All right, so I'm going to turn it,
It's not flipped.
It's
No.
mirror image.
It was right.
Okay, I'm glad I did that. You know why? I took the wrong side.
Scan the other side.
I'm scanning the other side. Good, let's have things that go wrong. So let me go back.
You might want to include your break.
Let's go back, unlock the tools, take my images of my bike, left click, drag them and dump them, because I did the wrong one. Took the wrong side. And retake the right side. Glad things go wrong. Just to show you that you can extricate yourself from just about any problem. So I look like an idiot, but it's a good teaching tool. And we'll go through the whole thing again. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring it all the way through to completion, just to show you what it can do, and then we can work backwards, okay? You've at least seen it, and you know what it is. Okay, this looks like it'll be a little bit more predictable. And then I'm gonna drag this down.
You're
Gotta
one
go this
over.
way, too.
You were going on the K9, I think you need to, yeah.
Go here. Right there, right? I thought it was. What did I do with my glasses? Oh, no wonder I can't see them. Okay, I like this, but I'm gonna look here, and the first thing I'm looking for is interocclusive clearance. The key to these restorations is having enough thickness, and it's always occlusal reduction. It always is. Now, I'm in the model phase, and when I see something that says it's underlined, it says I have to do it. This is where I want everybody by noontime, right here, okay? But I'm gonna left click and show you what it's asking for. It is asking me to put this in the proper place on that wax face bow transfer. This is the position, that's my curve of Wilson, that's my curve of speed. So I'm setting it on a face bow transfer. Left click tips it, right click drags it down. Oh, by the way, this is my midline, and that's the most facial portion of my incisors. This is why I took the mandible across the midline. So there are my central incisors. I'm gonna place it right there, approximately. I usually go to my curve of speed first. What I'm wanting to do is get that distal-most facial cusp, and that's that most anterior facial cusp on the same plane. So I left click to tip it, right click to get it down where I want it to be. Here's my curve of Wilson. Notice right now all my incisors and my canine and my molar are all on the same plane. And I'm exactly where I want to be in my arch. There's my midline, there's my facial aspect. I am literally now doing a face bow transfer to a articulator. We're just doing it virtually. I say, okay, you're all smart, you all know how to use a computer. All this is a computer now. That's all it is. Now look what it's saying. I'm computing the virtual articulation. That's what it's saying it's doing. It's saying I'm going to put it on a virtual articulator. It's all ready. I click the arrows and say next. And now I'm in the model phase. I don't have to trim a model for a crown. I have to do one for an onlay. Let me show you how this works. I'm going to push my center button now, run the trackball away from me, drag it up, and now my prep is 15, 20 times magnification. The first time you do this, you will be absolutely humbled. at your prep. Humboldt, it shows every little bleb, every single. This thing here, as I'm gonna go acceptance, should be very round. This margin here needs to be like a butt margin like the end of that table. And if it is, this computer finds it. It has to have the proper reduction. All right, I'm gonna trim the model. This is nightmares of dental school. Do you with the die saws in the lab. Double click to engage it, single click to tack it, double click, it lops off the smallest part of the model. I come over here, double click to engage it, tack it, double click, lops off the smallest portion of the model. I put my ghost, crosshairs on it, double left click, I'm back. Now I'm gonna draw the margin. Well, look at this. If I've done my prep right, and that's a butt margin, this finds it for me. I double click, this is like walking on a cliff. You stay above the cliff. And if you stay above the cliff, this will take you right to the margin. If you go over the cliff, it cannot come back on the cliff. Imagine yourself, please, no, don't imagine yourself, but if you could, you're walking a cliff, what is your possibility of getting back on the cliff if you walked off with it? Nothing, you're screaming all the way down, right? Well, you can't get back on. So I'm gonna double click on the cliff. Notice there's a ball there. Now all I'm doing is I'm running the trackball. Look what it's doing, it's finding the margin. I left click to tack it. I left click to tack it. I'm above the cliff. If this thing is going all over the place here now, that's what your prep is, it can't find it. And it's doing what I call a Miley Cyrus. It's like marginal twerking, it's just going every which way. That's a bad visual, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's true. It's gonna be doing like a belly dance and it can't find it. But if your prep is absolutely, it was a doctor up in Reading who did the case, we did it with a patient, and her margin was so perfect, we didn't have to do anything, just that it found it. So I usually do this in about 4 steps. See, it's just taking it to the margin for me, then I run it across like this, and I double click, and now I'm back. And now, of course, I check it. And yes, there's one spot here that's not very good. So I will double click, and now it's manual. I double click and run it to the next spot, double click, I've got that area. Well, I thought I had it corrected. And I've corrected it. There's a little bleb here. This is just because of the model, but now that's pretty good. Don't forget, that's 20 times magnification. Yes, doctor.
So chamfer's not gonna work, feather margin's not gonna work, it has to be a butt margin.
Correct. Now you can modify it. I call this a modified chamfer. This can come out. It should be smooth on the inside. It can go out 90 degrees to 120, but no more than that. I will go over the preps this afternoon. And now, notice, underline in red, it says define the insertion axis. Now the insertion axis is not just the insertion axis of the crown, it's the milling angle of the diamonds. It wants to see, are there any undercuts? Well, with this new software you have, okay, it can be undercut a little bit here, but it cannot be undercut in a margin. What does an undercut look like? See that yellow? That's an undercut. So I'm gonna just make a slight adjustment here and say, that looks like this thing can go straight down and I don't have any undercuts. I press OK, it says, all right, that's my insertion axis, and now I left click and I am going to get a proposal. This is going to be an algorithmic fit of 400 possible restorations. Ooh, ah, wow. And what it's doing is it's taking all the information from your neighbors and then it's going to give it a touch of genius. Bingo. Look what this gave me. Look at that occlusion. It's saying, hey doc, everywhere these dots are, that's your static occlusion. Let me just quickly go into this, do a model, it says, those are your contacts on your adjacent teeth. How good is this computer? It's fabulous. It's absolutely fabulous. Now I'm gonna show you after lunch, I'll take these off. I'll show you what all these tools are and why you're gonna agree with me that you just don't have to use all of them. But I will use this. I'll go to my cursor details and say, is this thick enough? Well, it says that my fissure height here is 1.60, meaning the thinnest portion along that fissure is 1.60, which tells me I'm thick enough, because the minimum thickness is 1.5. Wherever I put my cursor, that's the bottom thickness. So right there, that cusp is 3.45, that cusp is 4.85, that cusp is 2.69, that cusp is 2.78. Is that good? Yes, because the minimal thickness is 2 millimeters. So that looks great. I got my thickness. Now I gotta make sure my occlusion's good. That's my static occlusion. My experience has told me that if I leave my static occlusion there in aqua, I'm gonna grind in the mouth. So I go to my favorite tool here, which is Shape 2D Circular. Don't go crazy on me now, I'm just showing you so we go backwards. I think if I show you once and we move backwards, you've seen it before. My Shape 2D Circular is proportional change. 2D. It's proportional change. That's the size. If I right click, I can make that smaller. See what I'm doing? Look at that anatomy, by the way. It doesn't just mimic what's there adjacent. It made it genius, didn't it? If I take the color off, look at all that anatomy you have. This stuff is really unbelievable how great this is. So that's my size, and I'm gonna go over, and I'm just gonna take this slightly down to the blue, because my experience has told me that that's what's gonna give me the occlusion that the patient's gonna say, you know, I don't feel much difference here.
So you click and you hold it down? And
I left click, hold it down, run the trackball towards me, which takes it away. Now, what this is saying, all that blue area is either at 0 or 50 microns away. That's what it's saying. I'll take that any day. But I'm not done. I want to make sure I have no dynamic interferences. So I'll turn on my articulator. This is all on your sheet, by the way. It tells you step by step by step. Okay? And all I got to do now is turn on my occlusal compass, and it says, Doc, you have 2 interferences of all these: mediotrusion, lateral protrusion, occlusion, and protrusion. The only spots you're high are here. So let's eliminate those on the articulator virtually before I go to the patient's mouth. And now I'm done. And I can just tell you from my experience, I'm feeling very comfortable that whatever it says here, it says in the mouth. So I'm going to do little to no adjusting in the mouth, because that's what I don't like to do. It's a colossal waste of time, and the patients hate it. The other thing is, if I start grinding in the mouth, what am I losing predictability of? Thickness. And now I don't know if I'm thick enough.
A moment ago, you were showing the interproximal contacts. Can you pick them up?
Yes, I'm going to do that next.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever done one and had a not good fit, whether it be high enough due to bad skin or something, or is that, are they all pretty
Now
much?
they work now. Once you start, it's like anything else. Once you start being comfortable with this, it's pretty slam dunk. You'll know right away. You know, I can tell right away whether a case is a CEREC case is enough, height. And we're gonna go over that. That's what I was hoping to do. We usually have some patients here. We can build them and put them in. These happen to be the proper height, so when you look at these, you'll know what you need to do. Okay, Dr. Duck had asked a very important question. Now I'm going to turn my compass off. My color comes back on. I'll turn off the articulator, and now I want to check my interproximal contacts. So I click on Display Objects. I trim the model, and there is my interproximal. So doctor, that's for a molar. and that's what your premolar would look like, I'm good. I'm not gonna touch this. This says it's gonna go 50 microns into the adjacent tube. Now, why did I get these values? Because I set the parameters up here. I'll basically show you real quick. I don't wanna take too much time on this. But on the configuration, I set the parameters. So for every crown, it's gonna give you a crown with 120 microns of cement space. Why did we have that? What cement are you using here to bond in your all ceramic crowns? Reliax. So are you lead curing that? But it's a self-curing cement, right?
Right, well, it's dual cure.
Oh, it's dual cure, good. What are you using for a bonding agent?
It's-
Optibond?
It's in the system, so,
So it's a self-etching cement.
no, it has the bond in the Reliance package.
Oh, okay,
Not the
so,
package.
but is it a self-etching
We don't actually,
primer
we
or?
don't bond it.
I beg your pardon?
We don't actually bond it.
Okay, so just, I'm gonna go over it tomorrow. All these crowns need to be etched with hydrofluoric acid, silane, and then you're gonna put it somehow onto the tube. But you have to decide how you're going to bond with the tube. Are you gonna all etch the tube? Are you gonna use a self-etching primer? Or are you using a self-etching cement? Well, let's get the directions of the Reliax. But there's a bonding agent in the,
I believe it's a whole kit.
okay, can you scrub it on the tube?
Yeah.
Because some Reliax, I don't know if it's a Reliax that's a self-etching cement, or it's a Reliax that's a dual cure cement.
I haven't mentioned that.
Okay. But anyway, what I wanted to say was the cement is about 40 microns in its thickness, más o menos. So I'm done. I'm absolutely done. I got my contacts. I'm gonna go to mill. And now I'm gonna see my mill, ready to go to the milling machine. It's ready to go to the milling machine. I've already sent it to Reading, so I'm gonna find out today, at the end of the day, when they send the crown down, what it looks like. The milling unit is not available. It's because we're not plugged in. You're gonna hardwire this thing. I'm sure Marion is the same way, right? You're gonna hardwire into the wall and send it. And there is my proposal. There it is in the block. Now, I'm glad I see it because I have a spike there. See that? I gotta go back and change that. I don't know what that spike is. But I sure gotta go back and change it. There's my sprue. I can go back and change it. I go to model. I find out where is that little spike. And there it is. So I draw my margin, and I'm gonna correct it. Double click to there, double click. Now I just go back right here, design,